To Spiraling Soul, a podcast where we merge spirituality and psychology. I'm Emma, and that's Casey, and congrats on beginning the spiral. So, today's episode, we are going to be talking about habits. Like, how do we form habits? How do we break habits? How do we keep up with habits? This episode is definitely going to be a reminder to us, both Casey and I, because we suck at keeping habits. We both have ADHD, and so it's a struggle. We're giving you guys advice, but also giving ourselves advice with this. The reason we're going to be talking about this is mainly because I recently read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it is a little bit controversial with some people. I've heard discourse about it on how it's like maybe like too much of a capitalist mindset, or like that you always have to be doing something productive. I've heard criticisms about it just like not actually getting through to people. I read it. I personally learned a lot, and I also tied a lot of what I learned in the book to spirituality. And I think there was a lot of concepts in the book that are helpful. So I'm going to be referencing the book a lot, but then we're also just going to have a discussion in this episode about like our tips and tricks on making habits, our thoughts on keeping them, or like breaking them as well. What even is a habit, and why do we create habits? Habits are basically a mental shortcut learned from experience. You have so many things to do within your day, and your brain always wants to find the easiest route to do things, especially things that are routine, things that you have to do every day. So your brain creates mental shortcuts. And so basically habits are these mental shortcuts where they just become something that isn't in your full conscious mind. Your brain knows that you have more important things to think of than everyday tiny little habits. And so your brain will learn a certain process, and that will just become second nature, become something that you aren't even consciously aware that you're doing. This is a good thing because it creates a lot less mental load on the day-to-day things you do in life. It can also be a bad thing because then you don't become aware that you might be doing something. So if you have a negative habit, then you just continue to do that unconsciously. And the science of how they work, according to Atomic Habits, is Clear talks about 4 different stages of habits. The first is the cue. Second is the craving. Third is the response. And 4 is the reward. This is kind of what he says is the backbone of every single habit, whether a positive habit or a negative habit. Knowing these 4 stages, according to James Clear, is how you can kind of hack into it and change your habits as needed, either creating positive ones, removing negative ones, things like that. And so we'll get into kind of what his method is for doing this process. But just at its basis, habits are part of what's supposed to make your life easier. And when you think about it, a lot of us have kind of similar, just like routine habits, like, I don't know, self-care things like brushing your teeth or turning off the lights before bed. Every single action you do is a habit, even if it doesn't seem I don't know, like when you think of habits, you kind of might think of more so like actions but it can just be something as simple as turning off the lights when you leave the room, or
coming home and sitting in front of the TV.
exactly. Before I get into kind of the 4 stages of that I just talked about, something else he mentions in the book that I think is really important too, because I think it relates to spirituality and even manifesting also, is habits can also become your identity. And so you need to, when you're trying to change a habit, implement new ones, get rid of toxic habits, a lot of it comes down to your identity and how you see yourself. So the example given in the book is if you smoke cigarettes and you don't want to be a smoker anymore, instead of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, instead just say, I'm not a smoker. Because when you're saying you're trying to quit smoking, you're quitting smoking, then you're implying that you're still a smoker trying to quit. But if you keep telling yourself, I'm not even a smoker, like I don't smoke, then that's not even a part of your ingrained identity anymore. And I think that kind of relates to manifesting and creating your own life. Because if you, like, for example, if you want your identity, you're trying to manifest working out more. Instead of saying, oh, I need to go to the gym more, like I'm going to start working out more, like instead say, I'm a gym goer. Like I go to the gym every day. Like that's just part of my life. Yeah, I just thought that was a little like connection with spirituality.
My thoughts on this, I totally agree with that, but at what point does that become lying? Like, at what point does that become lying to yourself? If you're like quitting smoking, but you're like, I'm not a smoker, but then like every single morning you're smoking, or you're like, I go to the gym, but then you're like me where you haven't gone in like 3 months. Am I still a gym goer?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's the identity piece is just a part of the whole process, is what I'm thinking from it. Saying that you are something doesn't mean you're going to become it. You still do have to take action, but I think just the identity piece is a stepping off point, and really can help shape your brain into something else. Like something for me, I have a really hard time labeling myself as anything. Like I make music, I write music, I play music, but I never label myself as a musician. And I think it's put me at a disadvantage because then I feel like I can't do it. Like I can't keep making music because I don't call myself a musician. So now I'm trying to say, no, I am a musician. Or what's another good example?
We're podcasters.
Yeah.
I feel like at the beginning, it was like, oh, we're starting a podcast. But we're like, no, like we are podcasters.
Exactly. It's just something to think about when you're first starting. Like your words can really create a weight to your actions and what you do.
It's kind of like me, before I even had a TikTok, I was going around being like, yeah, I'm TikTok famous. I still think I'm freaking TikTok famous. Even though
you've had a good amount of viral videos.
Yeah, the numbers don't really show I'm TikTok famous, but in my head, I'm freaking internet famous.
Yeah. It's also that thing of like, I don't know. It's okay to be a little delulu as long as you're not like actually hurting yourself or your life.
Speaking of delusional, my mug says someone told me I was delusional. I almost fell off my unicorn.
Nice. I started saying delulu to my boyfriend, and he thought I made up that word, but then the other day he's like, I heard somebody talking, like I was just watching a video and then they said delulu, and I was like, I thought you made up that word yourself. And I'm like, no, me and my friends call each other delulu all the time. Like I didn't just make that word up.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I think that changing your identity and how you see yourself is a good starting off point because words do have weight. Or it's also like the concept of nice things about yourself too. Like maybe you don't have to say I'm a gym goer, but maybe you can start with saying I enjoy taking care of my body, my physical well-being. Because maybe yes, you're not at the point that you go to the gym every day, but you do. If you start saying every day you care about your body, you're going to start taking I feel like you'll even start taking subconscious steps to like seek out experiences that will help you take care of your body.
And prove to yourself like this thing is true. It's kind of like affirmations. Like the beginning of this year, I wrote on sticky notes and put it on my closet door, and one of them says, I follow my passions. And I have been following my passions since like the beginning of the year, and it just keeps building. So I think planting the seed, and then you water it, and then it grows into a big flower.
Yeah, and we were both talking about this the other night, but the more you kind of say these affirmations to yourself, it's gonna, even if it feels fake, saying every day, if you don't feel beautiful, but you still tell yourself every day you're beautiful, it's gonna sound fake at first. But then you get to a point years later where you're like, my default is calling myself beautiful instead of ugly. And we were talking about that the other day. Like, we've hit a point where our default is saying kind things to ourselves, and the negative thoughts will still come in and like hijack a little bit, but that's not our default anymore. My default used to be negative self-talk, and now it's positive self-talk, with the negative self-talk coming in and trying to instigate.
Like, what's your metaphor for the negative self-talk coming in?
So what we were talking about the other night is, think of these like negative self-talk, negative thought patterns that try to creep in. Think of them as that one guy that's always in your DMs, always sliding into your DMs saying, hey, responding to your story, nice, fire emoji. Hey, beautiful, hey. Because a lot of us have had that guy that just like is constantly in the DMs like that. So just think of your thoughts as that annoying guy, because you're like, oh, I feel kind of bad. Like, you're kind of pitying it. You're like, oh, you don't have to do that.
Like, why do you keep showing up? I never respond to you.
Yeah.
I don't identify with you. Why are you here right now?
Exactly. Okay, so let's get into this cue, craving, response, reward, if you're ready to move on.
I'm ready.
So the first part of this four-step process of habits that James Clear talks about is, the first part is cue. The cue is kind of the thing that triggers this, and it kind of comes from evolutionary, like when like early humans, there's a cue. The cue is a bit of information that like predicts that a reward is coming. So way back then, our priorities were mainly just like food, water, sex, shelter, mating, all that good stuff. Nowadays is kind of getting a little more complex, since humans have become a little more complex. And so it kind of is a step up. So like cues can predict things like money, status, love, approval, satisfaction, things like that. And your mind is kind of always subconsciously trying to pick up on these cues so that you can get this reward. After your brain is like brought awareness of a cue, then comes craving of like, okay, so I've seen this cue and now I need to like get this thing. And so it's the craving linked to the desire for this reward in the end. Then this leads to response. So like, you've noticed the thing, you want the thing, and now you're gonna take action to go after that thing. That's the response. So this is like the actual action part of the habit, doing the thing. And I'll give examples in a second. And then after you do the thing, you get the reward, hopefully. And that's the purpose, is to satisfy the craving, satisfy the thing that, the desire, the thing that you're going after. I'm just going to use some examples from this book. Kind of a habit that Casey and I struggle with is social media, picking up the phone, getting sucked into the phone. The cue, for example, would be your phone buzzing with a new text message. The craving is you want to learn the contents of that message. The response is you grab your phone and read the text. And then the reward is you satisfy the craving to read the message. And then what happens once you go through this process a couple times, your brain learns this pattern. And so then the cue is always associated with the reward. So that grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing, is what it says. Here's another one though. The cue is you hit like a difficult project at work. Like you hit kind of a stumbling block, like you're stuck. Your craving is you feel stuck and want to relieve your frustration. Your response is you pull out your phone to check social media. And then the reward is you satisfy your craving to feel relieved through like means of social media. But then checking your social media becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. And so then every time you feel stalled at work, you check your phone. Basically, once your brain wires this pattern, then every time you get the cue, you do the thing to get the reward.
Would that be like, so now I'm not at work anymore, but I'm at home, and now I'm checking the social media because my brain associates the social media so much with being stalled at work. Am I now thinking subconsciously kind of about how I'm stalled at work even though I'm at home looking at the social media?
Yeah, it might even turn into like you're feeling stuck at work and then so then every single time you feel stuck in general or like I don't know, it's like whatever feeling was associated with the cue at the beginning, so then it leads to like every time you feel that feeling, then you do the thing to get the reward. If you think about that one, it doesn't even have to be stalled at work. Like, let's reframe it into like you feel like, I don't know, you just feel like a negative feeling in general. You want to relieve that feeling. You check social media. So then every time you're feeling negative in general, you check social media.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely do this. Like, we were just talking about this over the weekend. I definitely do that and realize, wow, I've been numbing out with social media. But it sucks when, like, that's your coping mechanism and it makes you feel better. But it gets to a point where you're like, this is actually making me feel worse. And so now this thing that was supposed to help you is making you feel worse.
And that's exactly what he talks about in the book later, is that it gets to a point where the reward doesn't hit the same. Smoking cigarettes is a really good example because it seems like, I don't know, it's just like a very concrete example in my mind. Even though I don't smoke cigarettes, I think it just makes sense. One's feeling stressed, they smoke a cigarette, so then they start to feel better after smoking the cigarette. So then they associate, every time I smoke a cigarette, I'll feel better. But then if you continue to do that, you're going to feel less and less relief as it goes on, because so this is like basically like the habit loop, right? Like because it's a loop and you get stuck in it. And the book talks about how to create good habits, but also how to break bad habits. And we'll talk about creating good habits first. And basically you have to like hack into these different 4 steps of the process to do this. And so the first one is the cue. And the way to kind of hack the cue to make a good habit is to make it obvious. So like if you're trying to work out more, you have to kind of put it right in your face to do the thing. Like, I know a lot of people use like sticky notes or put something like an object right in front of them that will remind them of this every time in front of you is going to make it like, okay, wait, I'm reminded that I have to do this thing. And then with the craving, you can hack into that by making it attractive. So a lot of us, we see the cue, like we see our gym clothes or whatever, but then we're like, well, that doesn't really sound that fun to go to the gym. well, then you make it attractive, make it seem more fun than it actually is. So, and this isn't said in the book, but it's more like just my girl mind. Make it like aesthetic, make it pretty.
Like, have a cute outfit. Like, your outfit's cute, and you're like, I can't wait to get in this outfit and go to the gym.
Yeah, and just make it seem like more fun than it actually is. You can do this by adding things that you already enjoy doing to this process. This isn't really like a healthy one, but I know a lot of people that smoke weed and then go to the gym because it makes it more fun. You gotta pick and choose your battles sometimes.
I'm gonna be so for real. That was when I started getting into the gym, like my cousin was like, hey, come to the gym with me, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. He's like, oh, come with. And then we smoked in the parking lot and we went in and I was like, holy shit, working out is so fun.
That's funny.
But I don't smoke when I go before I go to the gym anymore. But
yeah, that like,
definitely made it more fun.
Yeah, that's, some people might not be down for that. I'm thinking of another, I don't know, just think of things that you already like to do. Like, okay, here's one that I do. I love getting a little sweet drink. Like, I get coffee, I've been sipping on my matcha. Like, I am very motivated by getting a cute little sweet drink whenever I go and do errands. So every time I have an errand to do or something that I really don't want to do, I reward myself by getting a sweet drink. So, like, I make it more fun. Like, okay, I'm going to do this thing that I've been dreading, but then while I'm at it, I'm going to get a sweet drink. That also kind of ties into the third part, the response part, which is make it easy. So, implement a new habit, get rid of everything, and just make it so that it takes, like, literally no effort to do the thing. So, like, if you want to go to the gym more, maybe instead of going home, changing, and then thinking you're going to go to the gym, but then you get home and you get comfy and you don't want to leave, just go straight from work to the gym. So, like, don't remove all the things, all the potential barriers, and make it, because your brain wants to do the easiest thing possible. That's the whole point of habits. Like, your brain wants you to have as minimal brain power used possible. So make it easy. Something you can do is leave your gym clothes out ready to go, so you don't have to worry about packing it all up. Something like that.
And if you aren't a morning person and you don't like waking up early, maybe don't set your habit to be in the morning. Maybe set it to be like after work. So you're not setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that also makes me think of another thing mentioned in this book. Too big of a jump for you to go straight from not ever working out to going to the gym 5 days a week. Start small with tiny, tiny little tasks that will put you in the direction of that habit. So if you want to start going to the gym, maybe for a few weeks, just put your gym clothes out. Like, lay them out in your bedroom. You don't have to do anything with it, just lay them out. Couple weeks later, lay them out and then put them on and then take them back off. He talks about that kind of in the book, but I feel like what will happen with me especially, I'll be like, I'm going to start this habit. I'll do it consistently for like a week and then fall off right away. But I feel like it's because it's just too big of a jump for me sometimes. So something I've been doing, like, I want to be someone that does yoga every day. And I really struggle because I love doing yoga, but after like a month or two, I just fall off. So what I do every single day, no matter how I'm feeling, I still get on my mat. Some days I don't do any yoga. I'll just sit on my mat or like I'll lay on my mat. Even though I'm not doing yoga, it's still getting me into the habit. Like, every day I sit or lay on my mat or something. And then it's kind of reaching a point that eventually I've gotten to a time where it's like, well, I'm on the mat anyway, I might as well do some stretching. And then it's going to continue on, like, and that's how it will get like really ingrained in you, because you'll hit a point where it's like, well, I'm already here, I might as well continue doing it. So you can take really small actions and you don't have to follow through entirely with your main goal. It's hard to get from point 0 to point 100 like that, like overnight, because then you're just going to fall off it and then feel worse about like, oh, I can't keep a habit. Just start really small, and it might feel kind of stupid at first, but then you'll get to a point where you're like, wait, I've been doing this thing every day, I might as well continue on and do more to my goal.
And it kind of reminds you of it, because that's like my biggest thing with the ADHD. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind for me, and I completely forget I even had this goal that of trying to achieve this habit or like do this habit until like a month later. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I really wanted to do this habit. Like Emma and I are doing this with the podcasting. Like we have on our calendar Saturdays this time we're going to do podcasting. Do we always meet? No, we're meeting enough though. Like it's on our schedule, and at least we acknowledge it. And we're like, hey, actually, let's just not do it today and let's do it next week. Or I'm not feeling up for it. But at least like now it's in our head. Like it's at the back of our mind.
And that also reminded me of something. Because yeah, especially for people with ADHD, like I'm so forgetful. So when it's just like right there in front of you, like it's almost like you have no choice but to acknowledge it. That's how it makes it easier.
I don't know if we want to talk about this right now, but did the book say anything about habit stacking?
Well, that would tie into the third part, the response, make it easy, because there's this thing called habit stacking, and it's basically putting one habit after another, and so you're kind of lumping all the habits together, which makes it easier to follow through with everything because it's all like one thing combined, kind of.
This is my habit stacking, is I know I have to take my contacts out every night, because if I sleep with them in, they get all crusty and my eyes hurt. So it's like I have to take them out every night. And so I have a habit of that. But I was getting into a little lazy, depressing habit where I would just not brush my teeth at night sometimes. Gross. I know. I'm not the only one that does it though. But anyways, so I go in and I take my contacts out, and I'm like, well, I'm in here already. I'm gonna brush my teeth. And then now I'm gonna add on to it. Now I'm gonna do my tea tree oil and my witch hazel on my face. And so it's just like, okay, I already have this habit. I want to implement new habits, and this is the best time to do those habits, so I'm going to stack it on top of my other ones. So now you don't have to go out of your way to create a whole new cue throughout the day. You already have a cue of where it should go next and stack in there.
Yeah, and it definitely works best with things that you are already doing every single day, no issue. It can even be like the tiniest habit ever. Like I was thinking of one, it's so when you come home from work or whatever, wherever you go on a regular basis, you come in, you turn the light on, or you take your shoes off. That's like such a small habit that you just do already. Like you're so ingrained in that. And so it's like, okay, I'll come home, I'll take my shoes off, and then I'll stack on a habit of like tidying up right away. That's what I'm trying to do. You can also set a time limit on it. So I've seen things where you give yourself like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. It's like, okay, for this amount of time, I'm going to do the dishes. After my timer goes off, I can totally stop if I want to. But a lot of times once you're already doing it, you're like, well, I might as well just finish up. So but then if you like really, really aren't feeling it and you still like, okay, I'll do the dishes for 5 minutes. And then when the timer's up, you can stop if you want. So it's basically like giving yourself permission to have an out if you don't want to do it.
That's also one reason that stops me from doing something, is that I'm like, I know if I start doing this, I'm going to want to continue to do this, and I know I'm going to get hyper fixated on it forever.
Yeah, so that could even work with negative habits too. Like, okay, or like scrolling on social media. That's something we both struggle with. Like, okay, I'll set a 15-minute limit. Once that timer's up, I have to be done. Does it work 100%? Not gonna lie, we both kind of struggle with that. We both have timers on our phones, and when they go off, we continue. So
I just find other ways to figure out how to get on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's deleted from my phone. All my social media is deleted from my phone right now because we have a problem.
That's actually the first step on how to break a bad habit. I just wanted to touch on the last part of creating good habits, which is reward, make it satisfying. A lot of habits, the problem with a lot of healthy habits is they don't have instant gratification. A lot of healthy habits, you're not going to see results for weeks, months, even years. So, working out, practicing an instrument, working, a lot of these like really good habits, like habits that are really good for you, take time. And that's really difficult for people to understand, especially people with ADHD, because, or just like people in general, because we want that instant gratification. Our brains are wired from evolutionary times to get the instant gratification. Back then, nothing in the future really mattered. It was all about now, like finding food, finding shelter. Early humans just wanted that instant gratification. And so now our brains are wired to want that. That's why bad habits that give instant gratification are so tricky, because it gives that like dopamine hit right away. So, with the reward part of it, you really just got to find ways to make it more rewarding in the present moment. That could be kind of what I talked about, like adding a little coffee, a little sweet treat to your, once you do the thing, you reward yourself with that. Maybe after you work out, you reward yourself with like a massage, or like go into a sauna, something like that. Something that is going to give you a dopamine hit. Or like, for example, if you struggle with social media addiction, make it like, okay, once I do these tasks on my list, then I can go brain dead on TikTok for 4 hours afterwards. I don't know. Basically, just make the end result seem more attractive.
Now, more than ever, it's easier to get instant gratification because we have social media, we have TV. Like, we don't have to go out of our way to get instant gratification anymore. I feel like we have to almost train our brains to like the long term, like the delayed gratification, because it is so easy to just get a dopamine hit now.
Attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. It's hard. It's something I struggle with too, for sure. But there are some habits that I really have kept up with that I'm finally seeing the results of. So it does work. It really does. It's just a matter of, I don't know, it's really hard. And that's why kind of changing your identity around the thing too is important, because you can kind of start to tell yourself affirmations like, I love working towards this goal. Like, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a cure, basically a cure to this issue. But a lot of it really just does come down to like, are you willing to, do you want to get to this point?
I've heard with starting like any goal or quitting something, it's good to have a why, in a very concrete, defined why, as to like, why am I starting this? Why am I quitting this? And it could be, I'm quitting social media, or I'm quitting going on social media because it makes me feel bad after, and I have all these books I want to read, or people I want to hang out with, or things I want to do, and this is preventing me from getting there. So I think it's good to have a why, as to why am I putting in any of this effort to change when it's easier to not change?
Yeah, it's important, like getting down to the why you're doing the things you're doing. Because these habits are seeking a feeling. And this kind of relates to what you were saying about the why. Like, so like bad habits, you're seeking a feeling good, and good habits that will take a long time. You're not going to feel that feeling till the end. But it's really just trying to feel that future feeling now. Like, I feel good becoming a better person on my journey every single day.
It's going back to the reward. You have to have some sort of reward. And this brings me to something that I haven't been able to figure out how to implement this, but I've always wanted to kind of create habits like a game. Like, I'm a video game character and I can see my stats, and like each time I do a habit, it like my XP for a skill goes up, and I can see like, okay, well, I'm this much closer, I'm this much closer, I'm this much closer to like becoming a level 3 at podcasting. But I don't know how to fully implement that to where it's easy.
Yeah, I like that. I saw a video about that too, of somebody that made a whole, they wrote on their whole whiteboard, like, like the little bars of like the status bars, and then every time they add to it, it goes up, or like they level up. And then whenever they level up, they get certain rewards and stuff like that. Yeah, I think just like making it a game, pretending like you're playing a video game or something is kind of cool, or like quests and things like that. Um, Something also like the tangible, seeing it go up. The book actually does talk about that. Like, there was one example of someone that was making sales calls, and every time they had a successful call, they moved a pin from one jar to another, and visually seeing the jar get filled up more and more was like gave that instant gratification, because it's like, oh, my numbers are going up. Another example is, if you're trying to save money, every time you avoid spending this certain amount of money on something that you don't need, instead you put it into savings for like a big vacation. And then at the end of the year, you can see all the money you saved, and now you can go on vacation. Something like that, like tangible, even like marking on a calendar, marking on a whiteboard, just seeing with your own eyes, like the progress you're making, is going to give you a little dopamine hit.
I wonder too if you can have an app that makes sounds, and each time you like do something, you can press a sound that goes, yay!
Yeah.
And that's kind of like why slot machines, like the colors and the sounds, like they keep you hooked on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. I've heard of, I think there's one app, for example, that it's something like every time you avoid going on social media, your tree grows more or something like that. And so people who have the app, I haven't downloaded it, but people have said, oh, it's really satisfying to see my tree growing instead of dying, because I'm not using social media. I don't know. I think there are apps out there and just things that, I don't know, get creative. Find something that works for you, whether it's like a tangible, like something you can see or move yourself, like marbles to one jar or another, or like an app. I don't know. I think there are things that can help you visualize your progress. Yeah. It's hard for people with ADHD because I don't even keep up with tracking my progress.
Yeah, that's the thing I was just thinking. I'm like, I've definitely tried to implement these things, like these rewards, and then I forget that they're there. Like if it's an app on my phone, I don't see that shit. Anything that's on my phone is just in the abyss.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like I had a bullet journal and I was tracking some things on there for a while and it was fun. It's fun, but like it's so hard to stick with it. So still a work in progress, but I feel like even though Casey and I are still struggling keeping the things, I feel like we have really grown in. I feel like I've gotten better at, like, some things are second nature for me now that used to not be.
Same.
Yeah.
Like look at us. We've posted 10 episodes.
Yay.
We have some habit going on.
Yeah.
So how do we stop bad habits?
So this kind of relates to what you were saying with deleting, like actually deleting the apps from your phone. Because as we said, the first step is cue. So, and when you're trying to create a good habit, you want to make it obvious. Put it right in your face. Make it super obvious. So if you want to get rid of a bad habit, you make it invisible. So deleting the apps from your phone, it's not on your phone anymore. For a while, I also deleted my apps, and it's funny because I would notice myself in, like, unintentionally scrolling to the page of my phone that I access my apps from, and then I would instinctually be clicking and then it wasn't there, and I was like, oh, this really was a habit for me. So that just goes to show, like, your brain is wired like, oh, every time I pick up my phone, I go straight there. So deleting the app, it's not there, so then you can't use it. The problem is sometimes we find workarounds, but just trying to make it have as many steps as possible to even get to that point, which is another part of breaking a bad habit. So the cue, you got to make it invisible. The craving, make it unattractive. Make it not fun. I've heard with social media, people changing their phone to grayscale because when we go on social media, we're drawn in by the color. So making your phone grayscale takes away that color. I tried it for a while, and every time I'd log on to social media, I got bored right away because it was all in black and white. So that could be part of making it unattractive. Make it just not fun, basically. And then the response, you can make it difficult. So let's say you delete the apps from your phone, but then you continue to go on desktop or whatever. Put as many steps in place to, like, override the habit of, like, the impulsivity of, like, getting on it. Make it the whole process just really annoying. So, like, I have an app right now on TikTok where every time I open the app, I have to wait 15 seconds before it opens. A lot of times by the end of the 15 seconds, I'm like, wait, I don't even want to go on. Because it's annoying to wait 15 seconds, which is so funny because it's only 15 seconds. But during that time, it gives your brain enough time to be like, wait, I don't actually want to go on. So if you make it as annoying as possible, as unattractive as possible, put it even out of sight, out of mind, by a certain point, it's not even going to be that appealing to you in the end.
You'll have to link that because I also could use that.
The 15-second app?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I will.
And then also using parent controls, like have someone else put a parent control password on your phone for certain apps. I have that. And so now I get locked out of TikTok after I use it for an hour a day. I've found workarounds to that, but even the workarounds are kind of annoying. Like, it's kind of like, ugh, I can't repost anything. I can't, if I go to a creator's page, I can only see like the first 15 videos or something like that. So just making it not fun, it definitely works.
Yeah, and the phone is a really good one because I feel like we all have phones and we'll pick them up right away and then go straight there. So just removing whatever is causing this habit like from your phone is just, I feel like, is a step in the right direction. Even if you're finding loopholes on like desktop or whatever, you're just breaking that one just like pick up phone, click social media habit. And it's also, it's baby steps. You know, don't feel guilty because you aren't following through with it, because I feel like it's just the progress that you can't see. Like, I used to sit on my phone all day. Like, at the height of COVID, when I had nothing better to do, I would be on it all day. Now, sometimes I'm on it a little more than I should be, but a lot of times I don't even go on it for like almost the whole day.
There's also, like, for example, if you eat junk food and you're trying to quit eating junk food out of like boredom, I guess, you just don't buy junk food. And so then when you're at home and you crave it and you open your pantry and you're like, oh man, there's no junk food here. Now if you really want the junk food, now you have to like get dressed, put your shoes on, get in your car, drive to the grocery store, like walk around there. So it just creates more steps to getting to that.
Yeah, exactly. Just make it like the most annoying thing to do. But another thing about the guilt, because I feel like whenever people aren't able to break habits, they just get into this cycle of guilt. Or like you'll start a new good habit or like start the process of breaking a bad one, and then there's one day that you slip off. And so like let's say for like 5 or 6 days in a row you don't use social media and you're feeling pretty good. The 7th day, you kind of have a rough day, which triggers you to numb out on social media. Then you start this spiraling of feeling guilty about it, like, oh, I'm like such a bad person because I totally like went on social media and I can't trust myself anymore, like all that. And then you start to just go on social. It makes your negative feelings come more and more, and then you keep spiraling, and then you want to keep using social media. I would say it's okay to fall off for a day because it's hard. It's hard to break habits. The thing is okay, let yourself have the day. Okay, I accidentally broke this habit, or I accidentally started this bad habit again today. Tomorrow, we are not doing that again. You can allow yourself one buffer day. If you let the habit slip for more than a day, then that's it. Like it's completely over. You have to restart your whole process. If you miss it for one day, but then are like, no, I'm gonna continue this good habit or like break this bad habit tomorrow. This one day doesn't define my journey. And so the next day you get back on and you do the thing again, then you learn to trust yourself a little bit more. So like if you were off social media for 6 days, the 7th day you spent the whole day scrolling TikTok, make a commitment like, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to do this again. Because then your brain is, it's like, it basically, I'm saying it's so hard to break habits. It's okay to slip up. It's just a matter of how you move forward the day after and the day after.
Yeah. And I think of it as if your best friend were to tell you they had this habit and they did it good for 6 days and then they fell off and then they came to you and they were all talking bad about themselves and they were all like, "Oh, I suck. I can't keep any habits. I can't trust myself." You just got to be like, "Yo, dude, you did 6 days with no social media. That is a success. That is farther than you have come before, and it's gonna happen, and it's okay that you slipped up. It's just getting back on the horse." So, because if you start associating even starting the habit with failure and with you feeling bad about yourself, you're not gonna want to try to do that habit again because you're associating it with, "I suck. I'm a failure." So just your self-talk is huge, huge. Your mindset is huge.
Exactly. Like, making or breaking a habit is not about starting it initially. It's about how you continue forward with it. That kind of ties in with the last part of breaking a bad habit, which is the reward part. Make it unsatisfying. So, if you're trying to break a bad habit and you realize every single time you do the habit, like, it gives you that instant gratification, but then afterwards you have all these feelings of guilt, like, ugh, why do I do this? Try to notice that feeling every time you do it. Like, these habits, and then we end up not feeling good about them in the end because they're not good for us. Example, I just had to find the book, the example the book used. Something you can do is get an accountability partner, which Casey and I both tried, but we're also both suck at accountability. But he also talked about in the book making the cost of your bad habits public and painful. So he gave an example of somebody that has like a significant amount of followers and they schedule a tweet to be sent out. Oh, it was like waking up in the morning. They schedule a tweet to be sent out after they're supposed to wake up in the morning that says, "I didn't follow through with my habits." So basically, so if they don't wake up in time, then the tweet gets sent out, and then all their followers can see that they're breaking their habit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have to go as far as like public humiliation, but I don't know, maybe that would work. Like, I know that would motivate me. Like, social stigma would definitely motivate me.
That's so funny. I've also heard, like, you can tell your accountability partner, like, "If I don't go to the gym with you, I have to pay you $5.
Yeah, that's a good one. Casey and I, we were talking about doing one where every time we log on to social media unnecessarily, we have to text each other because then it's kind of embarrassing. Although I definitely didn't text you all my times I went on social media.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, literally, I think it was the next morning after we're like, "We're not going on social media. We're going to text each other every time we do." Emma sends me this gif of this man, and it was like the box of shame, and it was just so funny that I couldn't even shame her for it because I'm like, "I'm sorry, this is too funny."
That is, yeah. Maybe there's an app. I think it's a paid feature though, which is why I didn't do it. But there is an app that every time you open a social media app, it sends a notification to your friend or like a contact of yours that you open the app. I think it's behind a paywall though. Like, I don't want to pay. But I think that would be really effective because if every time I open the app it got sent to Casey, I'd be so embarrassed.
Honestly, like, I wouldn't be embarrassed because I know we're in the same boat.
That's true.
If it got sent to my dad, though,
there you go.
Oh, that would keep me off.
Yeah, you gotta find, if you're finding an accountability partner, maybe somebody that doesn't have the same habit as you do. Because I know people that have habits that I don't have, and then I'm able to like check in with them a little bit better.
Yeah, Emma and I, not good accountability partners for social media because we enable each other. And we're both like, well, just be nice to yourself. Just be nice to yourself. It happens. It happens. But I think for certain habits, like for the podcast, I think that Emma and I are good accountability partners because I'm like, I can't not edit the podcast. I can't not post the podcast because I made a promise to Emma and myself. And making promises to myself, honestly, easier to break for me than if I make a promise to someone else. And then for me, I'm like, hey, Emma, we're meeting today. Or she's like, you were like, hey, I actually can't meet tomorrow. I have like all this stuff to do. I'm like, no, we set it on our calendar for a reason. And you're like, yeah.
I was like, I can move some stuff around, actually. You're so right.
So, yeah, having an accountability partner who is going to actually hold you accountable and that you're not going to, and they're not going to like shame you about it, but they're going to like hold you accountable for it is good.
Easier said than done, though. We both still really struggle with habits, but it's so important to acknowledge your progress because there are some things that I would never do, like I was really bad at, and now I do it easily, like with little hassle. It's a process. And also with the affirmations, a good affirmation I feel like you can start with if you're trying to implement good habits, which by the way, it's spring, it's a great time. I forgot to mention it at the beginning. I was going to say, but like this is such a good time. We're past eclipse season. The Taurus new moon just happened, and it's just like a very fertile, like potent time to begin new things. um I would say a good affirmation to start with is I trust myself. Just say that to yourself every single day. It might feel like a lie. I have trouble trusting myself, but just the repetition of saying that, you're eventually going to start to believe it.
I think that's a really good one to bring up. And maybe even writing down all the times that all the reasons why you can trust yourself. Like, I achieved X, Y, and Z. I have the habit of X, Y, and Z. I didn't do X, Y, and Z that I promised myself I wasn't going to do. Like, really concretely give yourself reasons why, a list of why you can trust yourself. And on the contrary, the reverse of that, write a list of the ways that of reasons why you think you can't trust yourself and really dive deep into those and maybe even begin healing those as well, because we still hold those subconscious beliefs of like, okay, this one thing happened and now I can't trust myself. And like, that's something I broke down in EMDR therapy recently, was like a big situation that I didn't even know caused this internal belief in me that made me believe I can't trust myself. So sometimes you have to heal shit in order to move forward because it's subconsciously preventing you from doing certain things.
I like that. Yeah. Like just, yeah, write that list. Write the list of ways of things you have achieved. Things, what was the other thing? Like ways that you don't trust yourself. Also writing down your values and like who you want to be. Like who are you striving to be? What kind of habits are you doing in your ideal life, in your ideal situation? Seeing it on paper really like helps me kind of visualize that.
Mm-hmm. And don't try to implement all the habits at once, because then it becomes too big of a thing. If you're like, here, you have to eat this elephant, you're gonna be like, dude, I'm a human. I can't eat this elephant in one sitting. And so you got to chop off a toe, and then you eat a toe, and then you chop off another part. That's like how you should look at your habits, is doing one thing at a time so it doesn't seem so daunting. Because if it's too daunting, you're not going to do it.
Baby steps.
And also addressing your fears around a certain like habit that maybe you're creating. Like, okay, I want to stop using social media as one. I want to stop using social media as much. What are your fears around that? Because some of them could be, I'm going to have FOMO. I'm not going to know what my friends are doing. Now I'm going to lose my friends because I don't know what they're doing. And just really confronting those, because it could be like, okay, well, I can ask my friend when they come back from their trip to see their Snapchat stories, or to see their pictures, or I can ask them to text it to me. Honestly, a lot of the people on social media that you're keeping up with, a lot of them you don't even talk to, you know? So you're not missing out on much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of with the making it unattractive, making it unsatisfying.
Hopefully, this has given you some tips and tricks on how to start habits or end bad habits. You probably already have a habit in mind that you want to break or that you want to start as you were listening to this. So, we encourage you to pick one habit and try to figure out how to break or implement it into your life. And just give yourself grace, trust yourself. You can do this. Come back to this episode if you need. Let us know in the comments what habits you are trying to implement into your life. And good luck. We'll keep you updated on ours. And we also have other social media that you can check out. We have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have YouTube. We'll link in the description some of the apps that we're talking about, the book that Emma read, and I'll also link it to our Amazon storefront. We have an Amazon storefront, Emma BTW. On our storefront, we have a bunch of the links to books that we've talked about and that we recommend, and movies and shows that we've talked about. So, got some good info there. Good luck on your journey. Congrats on starting the spiral. And we will see you in 2 Tuesdays with a brand new episode. This is our habit now. Bye.